Now you're jealous.
Okay, so welcome to class, first graders. You just got in and we're starting our day with reading. If you remember yesterday, we learned about facts and opinions. Who remembers what the difference is between the two? Can anyone tell me what an opinion is? What's an opinion?
An opinion's what you think.
Yeah, something you think, so it's something you can't necessarily prove with other facts. So then what is a fact? Yes?
A fact is something that is true and it's been proven.
Mm-hmm. And something important that we learned yesterday is that opinions people can disagree with. And that's something important we learned yesterday. Can I have a volunteer to read these two things on the board? Yes?
I think Max is a wild thing.
Okay, and what is this one?
I think Max is not a wild thing.
So what do these sound like? Do these sound like facts or do they sound like opinions?
Opinions.
Yeah, they sound like opinions. I'm going to read you a story called Where the Wild Things Are today. And the main character in this story is a little boy named Max. So as you're listening, I would like you to think about these two opinions. And at the end of the story, you're going to be choosing whether you think Max is a wild thing or is he not a wild thing. Come over here. Where the Wild Things Are. And that's Max. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another, his mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew. And grew. And grew until his ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world all around. And an ocean tumbled by a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through the night and day. And in and out of weeks, and almost over a year, to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. Till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with the magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all. And made him king of all wild things. "And now," cried Max, "let the wild rumpus start." What are they doing?
Jumping.
Mm-hmm. "Now stop," Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then all around, from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. And sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day and into the night of his very own room where he found his supper waiting for him. And it was still hot. So do you remember the statements we read at the beginning? Who wants to read them for me?
I think Max is a wild thing. I think Max is not a wild thing.
So take a minute and think to yourself, what we just read the book, do you agree with this opinion, that he is a wild thing? Or do you agree with this opinion, that he is not a wild thing? Take a minute to think about that. Go ahead and tell your partner, what do you think? Okay, so show of hands. Who thinks that Max is a wild thing? Well, I have two that think he's a wild thing. So who thinks that Max is not a wild thing? 4. We're going to split up into teams. So can I have my 2 that think that Max is a wild thing? Come right over here. And can you come help me tape these to the board? You can. We're going to start up here. Now while we're taping, go ahead and think with your teammates, what is some evidence that I can show to prove that he is a wild thing or is not a wild thing that we read in the book or we saw in the pictures? Go ahead and start thinking about it. There we go. Now, with your teams, I have a pen for each team. I need one person to volunteer to be the pen person. Okay, there's one pen person. There's another pen person. I'd like you to look through the pictures and circle the evidence that shows supporting your opinion. So maybe something that shows that Max is a wild thing, or something is not a wild thing.
Yeah, circle both.
Yeah, and go ahead and work with your group. Yeah. You girls can go ahead and stand up and work with your partner.
I'm just gonna fix it.
We're done. Okay. Oh. Okay. Now are both teams done?
Yes.
Okay, so we have in blue evidence that shows that Max is not a wild thing. Let's start. I see the first clue right here. Can I have everyone go ahead and sit right back where we started? I see that you circled terrible teeth. What does that show us?
Because it said that they have terrible teeth, like the sharp, terrible teeth, but he doesn't have sharp, terrible teeth.
Oh, so he has no terrible teeth. Max does, anyways. Okay, and I see something else circled right here. Can someone else tell me from the blue team? Yes.
The monsters have yellow eyes and he doesn't.
Oh, so yellow eyes. And I see another blue over here. And I see you circled the words, so he gave up being king of where the wild things are. Can I have another volunteer from the blue team to tell me why you circled that?
Because he wanted to go home, he didn't want to stay with the wild thing.
Oh. Wanted to go home. And I see you circled his face. Why did you circle his face?
Because he was sad that he was in the wild. He wanted
Oh, so he looked sad.
to be with people that loved him.
Too loved. And then I see some other things over here. I see the hands and the feet and the fingers. Why did you choose to circle those?
Because they say they have terrible claws and like with their teeth, and he doesn't. He's just wearing a costume.
So, just a costume. And then I see you circled the boat.
Because that represented that he was just visiting them. He wasn't actually one of them.
Visiting. Okay, and then I see some things down here.
He takes off his hood, so he's a boy again.
He's a boy. Again. And then I see you circled his. What is important that's on the table?
The food, because he like came back home to the real world, not the wild things forest, and ate his normal food.
All right, he went home. Okay, now, does anyone know where my cap went? Oh, thank you. Now, the black team, I see that you circled some evidence to show that he is wild. Why did you choose this picture?
Because right after that, his mom said, "You're a wild thing." So his mom actually said that he was.
You're a wild thing. Okay. What about this picture? Why'd you circle this picture?
Because he was in the wild, and he's dressed like a wild thing.
All right, so the wild, his clothes. Okay, let's see. And then all the way over here, so you circled this one.
The monster had just told him and said, "You are the wildest thing of all," so they made him king. So they
Oh.
said it too.
So he's the wildest thing. And then what about these two pictures?
That's how he's fitting in. He's part of the wild.
By dancing and hanging.
So he acts like a wild thing. Okay, well, good job supporting your evidence, finding evidence to support your opinions. I'd like you, two of my team that said that he is not a wild thing, to match up with you, who thinks that he is, and then you two with him, and tell each other your opinion, and then 2 to 3 reasons from our evidence to support your opinion. So what might that sound like? Can I have an example? Who would like to show me an example of what that might sound like? Yes.
I think he's not a wild thing because he went home in the end.
Okay, so that's one good reason. Can we find another good reason to show why he's not a wild thing?
Because he didn't have yellow eyes.
And because he didn't have yellow eyes. Great. So go ahead and take turns between the 3 of you and tell each other your opinion, and then 2 to 3 reasons why your opinion is what you think it is. Okay.
I think
I think he's a wild thing because he looks and acts like a wild thing.
That makes sense.
Is he not a wild thing because he's just a little boy?
I think my 15 minutes is up.
I appreciate your opinion.
Okay, great. You guys all just shared with each other, and then we would share it with the class, and I would take notes and put bullets showing the reasons underneath, and that would be it. So we would have done a think, and then a pair, and then a share, and then that would be all. But I'm over time.
All right, feedback for Miss Jasmine.
And I dropped the ball. I need to print my sheets because I forgot to.
I have
I'm very
copies.
sorry. Oh, you just saved me. Okay.
I like how many times you remember the idea of supporting your evidence, because one time is not enough, especially for such a young age. So you had to do it on the board, you had to talk about it, you had to even put it back on the board.
Yeah, I like that you didn't just make us share with each other. I like that first you made us actually show the evidence, because I know like kids a lot of times will just kind of have their opinions and back it up with their own made up facts, and so you made us actually use the story and go back and find it. And I like that you made us read what was on the board, so like for us to get better understanding, make sure we knew what we were talking about and it wasn't just you telling us what to do.
Right. I like that you have the pictures up on the board so that we didn't just get to see them or hear the story when we read it, but we can refer back to the pictures.
Anything else?
I like that you could draw straight from the picture to the board. So like it was written, we could see it, we talked about it, it's getting a lot of different levels on there.
That's the picture word
Exactly.
induction model.
And I had to try and like switch it up a little bit, because in the book it was very like it gave a very specific layout of the order of how you're supposed to do it and what you're supposed to use it with. That's why last week I asked if I could modify it a little bit.
Well, and that's what
because
you're supposed to do. Again,